Hello Glee, my name is Owen Cole. I'm your third great-grandfather. This is my life story. I was born January 13, 1799 in Middlesex, Yates County, New York. My parents are James and Abigail Pray Cole. I was the second-born child of 11 siblings. My parents moved from Rhode Island to New York just prior to my birth. The Cole family came to America as a result of my fifth great-grandfather James Cole arriving in Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1623, 3 years after the Pilgrims arrived in 1620. This was a result of the family of Coles in England being granted by King James valuable lands in America. James Cole came to America after the death of King James and settled in Plymouth, Massachusetts. My grandfather Sisson Cole served in the Revolutionary War, which ended control of the colonies by Great Britain. I married my first wife Sarah Turbaugh in 1816 when I was 17 years old. I called her Sally. She was 22 years old at the time. We had 8 children together, 4 boys and 4 girls. Sally used to make corn bread for the family. We called it Johnny Cake. She made it in a square pan for weekdays and a round pan for Sundays. Our oldest son William Riley joined the LDS Church at the age of 16 in 1833. He was 12 years younger than the prophet Joseph Smith. He was a mechanic and loved machinery. He worked for the prophet as a bodyguard. He loved the prophet and was among the members of the church who arrived at the Carthage jail soon after the prophet and his brother had been martyred. He saw the lightning from heaven strike the mob when they tried to cut off the prophet's head for ransom. The mob froze and were unable to move. They had killed a man who was an instrument in the hands of God. William was present when Brigham Young was chosen to take the place of the prophet Joseph Smith. Sally and I and our 5 oldest children joined the LDS Church in Coppell, Ohio, on January 27, 1835. This was 5 years after the church was organized. Our 2 youngest boys, David and Benjamin, were age 5 and 3 at the time. We endured persecution and injury after joining the church just like the other members of the church. While living in Quincy, Illinois, my house was plundered and I was shot through my thigh by the Missouri militia under Governor Boggs' order to exterminate Mormons from Illinois. I filed a claim for damages with the state of Missouri but received none. I used a cane the rest of my life. My Sally died October 25, 1842, and while we were living in Pennsylvania at the age of 48. With Sarah Turbaugh I had 8 children. William Riley was born in 1817 in Middlesex, New York. Our next child Diana was born in 1819 in Middlesex, New York. She preceded me in death at the age of 28. Our daughter Lucinda was born in 1820 in Penfield, New York. She preceded me in death at the age of 66. Our next boy Nelson was born in 1823 in Penfield, New York. Our daughter Clarissa was born in 1827 in Penfield, New York. Next, Susan Ann was born in 1827 in Greece, New York. Susan is your great-great-grandmother. She was married to Joshua Davis. We lived in the Provo 2nd Ward together. Our son, David Mark, was born to Sarah and I in 1830 in Greece, New York. Our last child Benjamin Howard was born in 1832 in Copley, Ohio. 1 year after Sally died I married Huldah Judd, the widow of Richard Dancy in Nauvoo in 1843. We received our endowments in the Nauvoo Temple. Huldah died 7 years later on May 10, 1850, in Honey Creek, Illinois. With Huldah Judd I had 1 child, Sarah Jane, who was born in 1844 in Hancock, Illinois. While in Nauvoo I became acquainted with the prophet Joseph Smith and mourned his death in 1844. I gave time and means for the building of the temple in Nauvoo. I moved to Iowa where I met and married Huldah Theodosia Parrish on June 29, 1850. She had 8 living children from 2 previous marriages. We were married for only a few months. The next year I met and married Keziah Fowler on March 14, 1851 in Pottawatomie, Iowa. She had 11 children with George Washington Brandon, who died 2 years previously in 1849. Our children were continually at odds, fighting with each other. We soon divorced. Our family immigrated to Utah in 1852. I was 53 years old at the time. We traveled in the Henry W. Miller Company. I owned a fine pair of mules to make the journey. We departed Connesville, Iowa in late June of 1852 and reached the Salt Lake Valley on September 21, 3 months and 1,100 miles later. There were 202 members in the company. 4 years after arriving in Utah, I met and married Maria Susanna Wilhelmina Gerber on September 25, 1856, in the Salt Lake LDS Endowment House. She was the daughter of Swiss parents. She was born while her preacher father, the Reverend Johannes Gerber, and mother Maria Elizabeth Wagner were preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, in the West African country of Sierra Leone. As was often customary, members were being rebaptized after arrival in Utah. I was rebaptized in 1857 by James Brown. Marie was 28 years old at the time of our marriage. We first lived in Ogden and then moved to Spanish Fork at the request of Brigham Young. This was due to the feared, impending attack in 1857 by Johnston's army. They had set up camp in Camp Floyd in Utah County near the point of the mountain. Marie and I later moved to Provo. We would have 3 children. Maria died 5 years later on March 13, 1861 at the age of 32. This was 2 weeks after giving birth to our last-born son in Provo, Utah. With Maria Gerber I had 3 children, Mary Pauline, who was born in 1857 in Ogden. Mary preceded me in death at the age of 26, Julia Abigail, who was born in 1859 in Provo. Julia preceded me in death at the age of 20, and John Charles, my last-born child, was born in 1861 in Provo, when I was 62 years of age. Marie was buried in the Provo City Cemetery. I served as a 70 in the 7th Quorum of the 70 within the Provo 2nd Ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I obtained a temple recommend on the 13th of October 1871 to attend the Endowment House. On the 17th of October 1871, I was sealed to my second wife Huldah Judd. I missed serving in the U.S. Civil War under President Lincoln because I had joined the church and was living in Utah. In my life I was married to 5 women and had 12 children by them. I never participated in polygamy, although some of my children did. I was excommunicated from the Provo 2nd Ward, LDS Church on June 22, 1876 for apostasy at the age of 82. This was 5 years before my death. 2 days later, on June 24, the following was published in the Salt Lake Tribune. Owen Coles, Provo, has been publicly cut off from the Mountain Meadow Church. Owen Coles was too good a soul to be connected with such a wicked outfit. I was left a widower for 27 years, from the time Maria died in 1861 until I died. I died of old age December 22, 1888 in Provo, Utah at the age of 87. I was buried in the Provo Pioneer Cemetery in Block 2, Lot 32. Thanks for listening to my history.